talk to Drea and Brian and MJ. Welcome. It was almost a year ago that we were doing this with the extended trailer, and now we all have hopefully all seen the video or the film. Sorry, I was reading my screen. Um, and so let's y'all introduce yourselves, and then I've got some starter questions.
I don't know. I feel like I need to introduce myself. You're all so way too much about me already. Um, but I will say that next Saturday is my 10th anniversary of being diagnosed with ALS. Celebrating.
I'm excited for you. That's amazing.
And I'm Brian. I'm one of the filmmakers.
And I'm MJ. I'm the other filmmaker, and we met Andrea in 2019. So pretty crazy. It's also coming up on 5 years. Or I guess now it's over 5 years.
Yeah, you should tell the story of how we met.
We met through an incredible photographer named Tamara Lackey, who I was working with at the time for a show for PBS on photography. And Tamara said that the first episode for this photography show that she wanted to do was on her friend Andrea. She said she did this race. It was incredible, and hundreds of people stopped for that afternoon to wait and to party for this woman to cross the finish line. And so that's how I heard about Ramblin' Rose for the first time, and Andrea's last race, which we all know was such a failure in being the last race. And so yeah, I met her hearing that story right at the genesis of Andrea setting her 50-state marathon goal.
Yeah, and so they were over AJ was over in my house shooting that, and then afterwards we were I was talking, and she was telling me how she and her husband were in a nonprofit in Rwanda, and use film and videos to tell the story and raise money. And I thought, who better to understand what we are trying to do than someone who runs a nonprofit? And so we were lucky enough to help them, and that they said yes and stuck with us through COVID and all the ups and downs of the art project. And I just can't imagine a better art team. And yeah.
Thank you. Same.
So catch us up on the last year. This last year when we talked to you, y'all were in
Dallas.
festivals. Everything was under lock and key, and now the book's out and you're streaming. Catch us up.
I will start, and then I'll start with what we were doing, and then you can tell what you were doing. So we Dave and I and our foundation took the show on the road. We had 55 screenings last year. 30 of which were in the fall, which was insane. Which was often Dave and I driving around with our merch and our posters and all that, and yeah, so it was a little crazy. We had an amazing opportunity to show the film in 51 Regal theaters on one night last January, and that was amazing. And that is an opportunity that really doesn't happen for um independent films like ours, but someone high up in Regal saw it, loved it, and said we need to program it. And so now we are streaming it on Effective, which is an India platform, and we are renting it out that way, and then we have a partner who shows it to like universities, and then we're just trying to do like a smaller screens, but not like last year, which was crazy. Um, I didn't talk about the film festival part.
Yeah, so on our end, we went to some of those screenings.
Like 25 or 30.
20,
Mhm.
a lot. And
Yeah.
then we also went to several film festivals. Our converted van broke down twice. We lost an alternator in Colorado, and we dumped an entire tank of diesel.
DC.
Um, and yeah, so we picked up a few more awards along the way. We got into some really good festivals. Got to meet a lot of people at both the things. I think that was the best part of last year, was all the different connections and meeting all the different people along the way.
And honestly, this film, like, you know, thanks in large part to the community of you all that like supported us, like truly. We had one of the most successful independent documentary runs out of any of the films last year. So for context, like we made it into 20% of the festivals that we applied to, which is unheard of. Like, usually you kind of have to have a lot of money and marketing behind you to get those kind of numbers. And this was done purely out of word of mouth and the story. So yeah, usually it's like a great festival run is like you make it into 5%, and we made it into 20%. So that was amazing. And we won several awards. So yeah, it was a whirlwind. I think all of us were just holding on, not sleeping very much, living in cars. But also that's kind of the independent film experience. And I think all of us were just really grateful and excited to have access to like spread the message as much as we were able to, and knowing that like that was such an opportunity and a privilege. And so we were grateful, just really grateful to be able to do that together. And I hope all of us, you know, just hope that it has returned and continues to return a lot of awareness and funding for what you all are doing.
Well, and a lot of inspiration, right? Like, you know, I'm looking at you, Claire Bergman, you know, um, Claire or Andrea, do you want to tell Claire's story and why there's some synergy there and why there might be some inspiration from this film?
No, y'all cannot tell.
I learned of Andrea so I was diagnosed with ALS in November of 2022. And I learned of Andrea through a friend of mine who I met while everybody thought that I had MMN. And when I learned what Andrea was doing, I have identified as an endurance athlete for 30 years, basically. And I wasn't going to stop doing what I love to do. And so I saw Andrea doing it. I'm like, I don't have to. so that's where I am. You have completely motivated me, Andrea.
Same.
This year, Claire will be the first time that for ALS TDI, we will have a person living with ALS running for us in the New York City Marathon. And hopefully there will be one other person with ALS participating in the New York City Marathon if we can get the NYRR to answer a goddamn email.
Yeah.
Working on it.
Best of luck.
That'll be amazing.
I'll be there.
When is the New York City Marathon this year?
November 3rd. Sunday, November 3rd. And you guys, MJ, Brian, Andrea, like having had the privilege of being able to be out in Santa Barbara with you guys for the premiere at that festival, you know, I watched you while I, you know, sat around Kim and Bob's pool the next morning. I watched you take in 1,000 meetings at a WeWork and, you know, meet more people with ALS. I mean, was that did you uphold that pace, or was that really because it was the premiere? That was crazy.
Andrea upheld that pace for sure for all of last year.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Andrea.
It was,
Yeah.
I don't know, Andrea,
don't
what was
think-
harder, the 50 marathons or distribution last year?
Distribution was so crazy. But it was because I kept feeling like I had this like 15 minutes of fame and this moment, and we're gonna like this was my one shot to like raise a bunch of money for ALS and TDI, and so and we are raising money. We we're not on Netflix or whatever, but it's actually better because we get more money for our screenings, and we would out of like Netflix or Prime, but I just kept chasing for my moment, and I think now that I have had time to reflect and like slow down, it was totally the times that I got to see my friends, like seeing like Sunny and Dallas and you know Desi and everyone from her last story in New York City. Like those were the times that I remember. And those just like the races, like ALS, I cannot take the memories away.
Yeah. I think it was
So
real
we're
testament. Oh.
No, you go.
I was gonna say, I think it's a real testament to like the impact that it had, that we were all sprinting for a year. You know, at the beginning we thought, okay, well, we got into Santa Barbara, we're gonna we haven't made it into our next festival yet, so we're just giving it our all. We're taking every interview, every opportunity we can, every single thing, you know. And then we found out we made it into the next festival, and then the next, and so it was definitely just none of us knew what to expect, but I think all of us felt that, or I can speak for myself, we didn't want, for me, I didn't want like an opportunity for me to not take an opportunity, and for that to be the opportunity that like opened a door for, you know, something really meaningful or a really big opportunity for the ALS community. And so with that, like, we were tired and pushing ourselves, but I don't think that I wouldn't have wanted to do anything differently, because I know that we can look back on that year and say, like, we threw ourselves into every single opportunity that presented itself, and we did our absolute best. And it was also just a really hard year. Like, I mean, we made it into 20% of festivals, and it was the most stacked year that festivals had ever seen, because everyone was holding their films from COVID. It was the first year that it was back in person. And so they were seeing across the board just record-breaking numbers of entries, of like submissions. And so, anyways, when we look back, I know that we can all as a team say that we just threw ourselves into every single opportunity that was presented to us. I'm really happy that it landed on a platform like Eventive, because I think it's true to how this project started and how it finished, and that, you know, it's a lot more transparent, and the financials, you know, those rentals are going to Team Drea, and it's really clear cut. And so for that, I think it's like the perfect kind of ending or platform for that to land on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to say I remember sitting in your room in Santa Barbara, MJ and Brian, and we were having a discussion, and you were both so stressed out reading like reviews, and you were like, oh my God, we're never going to get into film festivals, and I feel terrible because I'm not a big name. Hello, big names. Look at you, 20%. Like, hello, that's amazing. So thank you for just sticking through it. You guys are like just underneath Andrea. I mean, I'm going to give her a little bit of a boost, but you
Yeah.
guys, holy moly, you guys were really amazing.
This is what happened. We applied to Santa Barbara. We got into Santa Barbara very, very quickly, let's
Yeah.
say. And we were like, oh, we might get into tons and tons of film festivals. And then it was like
10.
10 or 15 rejections in a row. And we were
Yeah.
like, we're never getting into anything ever again.
Yeah. And then we got into
I
a bunch.
remember that. It was horrible because I just knew that can't be right.
I know. I was like, they're not watching her story, clearly. So, thank you. Thank you for bringing up that memory. That is.
So this isn't the end of your story.
No.
You're still doing showings, screenings. How has that gone? It seems like you've been drawing some great numbers. And then I guess tell us how the dynamic shifted once the book came out.
It's interesting. When people read the book first, and then see the movie, or people see the movie first and then read the book. I I don't know. I've just had some really deep conversations with people who like loved one part of something, and and then watching it on the screen is like, oh, I can like piece it together now. Um, which is more like how I experienced it. Like, I can't say all that I am thinking, but I wrote it all in the book. But you don't get the dynamics and the characters like Colette and Glynis without seeing them in person. So I love when people seen and read together, but we are still doing our screenings on a slower at a slower pace. My parents and I went to Cincinnati and we're with like Sam Camp and Lori Carey and their whole Cincinnati community. And then we went out to Ann Arbor and we're with the Active Against ALS group. And I mean, those were both like phenomenal, and I really got the time to like stop and talk to people and like not take off right away. And so that is really the pace. I hope to keep out where I can really like share it with people. So racing. I would love to like show the film and then race like I already had the Calgary Marathon next year on my 25 list. Like they're inviting me up and they're reading the book and they're showing the film and then I'm doing the marathon and I just that's what I wanted. Um,
Andrew, was there ever a time, I've actually never asked you this, but it was something that I always worried about. And was there ever a time through all of this that you felt it was affecting your health?
yeah. Definitely in the 21 marathons in 1 year and 23 and 12 months, whatever. Like, that's too many. And so my knee was really taking a beating. My health overall wasn't as good. And I didn't realize it until now when I'm like back and like doing a better pace and I'm like at the gym, you know, 5 days a week or whatever. Like I can do more to maintain my health than I was doing on the road or the marathon. But I do.
Even your voice, like it's late in the evening right now, and your voice is really clear and strong. And there are times that I can think of over the last 3 years where I had more difficulty understanding you than I do now. And
Yeah.
I wonder if you're just better rested. And
I think so. And yeah, my mental health, I'm not as stressed anymore. Even though I said that at the very beginning of the iPhone was like literally the first thing that I said, and it was so not true. Like, it's pushing myself as I usually do. But what I meant was like, I know how this ride is going to end. Um, but I get to do this now.
So Brian and MJ, before you met Wonder Woman, did you guys think you were going to be running 26, 50 marathons basically with her? 'Cause I know you ran probably at least most of them, if not even more steps, trying to catch up with her and cutting her off and getting the better shot. And so I figure you guys probably ran at least what, 55 marathons at this point?
Not even close.
Really?
One,
Maybe
maybe
one.
one.
She was so fast. Like, she was so fast. So
We filmed from the car sometimes. We know we would drive, we would track her and we would drive spots and then run and try to. Those GoPros were
clutch.
good.
We always,
Amazing.
yeah, I think we relish the idea of like in filming, like we've always, I think one of the things that we bonded over when we met was like pushing yourself, like seeing where your limit is and then trying to push past that. And that's where you can get shots that maybe no one else gets, and that's where you can get stories that maybe no one else is maybe a little bit too prideful, to be honest. But the idea of, we want to go where it's hard to go, because those are the stories. That's when you see people. That's when you catch someone with a flat tire or stuck in a crack. So you have to be willing to like push yourself way beyond your comfort zone. And that was something that we bonded over, very early on. And we were just really, I think that was one of the big things that drew us to Andrea's story, was she had this big dream that was incredibly uncomfortable. It was incredibly big. And she was pushing herself to go someplace that, a lot of people were asking, is it possible? And so I think then we were asking ourselves, like, all right, let's for us try to push ourselves to our impossible as well. So when everything came together, it was pretty very meaningful.
And thankfully, her story coincided with cameras getting smaller at about the exact same time,
Actually,
which
that's
made
true.
a very big difference
Actually,
in how
that's
we were
very
able to
true.
make this.
Yeah, there was like a sweet spot in 2019. This is so strange, but technically, very like Sony came out with a camera that could auto track, that was very small and could auto track on a 3-way gimbal that came out really well. And so what you see, actually, the setup that we used eventually is now used in the NFL. And we were doing that 2 years before the NFL implemented it in their broadcast. And when we saw it, we were like, oh my gosh, I know exactly the camera they're using, and I know exactly the gear that they're using. That's what we've been using to chase Andrea for 2 years.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And sure enough, that it was exactly that. So,
Well, and so well, Brian mostly would shoot running backwards.
yeah.
And holding the camera still as possible. I mean, it was crazy.
Except in Boston. I tried to run backwards in Boston. That was
And you all were too fast.
That would have been scary. Yeah.
Too fast. Well, they just went too fast. They were just like speeding up, speeding up, speeding up, speeding up. So
Yeah.
Is there a shot, Brian and MJ? I mean, you guys know that like the most the moment of the film that has the biggest effect on me is the crack scene. But is that the shot? What's the shot that you're like, I can't believe we just got that?
I can answer for me, and it was the hill in Alaska, 100%, because the film had, we had all as a team talked about from the beginning. Andrew was like, I'm setting out to do this goal, but I don't want it to be just about me. Like, it's not about me, it's about this community, who has supported her. And so being in Alaska and it being her 50th, and we know that she's going to cross the finish line and there's going to be a huge group cheering for her. But the whole week leading up, we were like, okay, like, this is also about this whole entire community. And so when that happened, which was completely unplanned, completely out of the blue, like the fact that we would just happen to be there, that Colette, that all of you just happened to be there, like, I mean, it would have been so easy to just like miss, but
That was insane. So for those who haven't heard kind of us talk about that moment, there were a group of us who basically commandeered one of the vans that Andrea and Team Drea put together an incredible, really execution organization on the ground in Alaska. But we commandeered one of the vans to go see mile markers for people like Glynis's husband, Vince, and some of the people that had passed were some of the women that were there with us. And it was foggy. We had watched Andrea take off. I think the hotel was maybe at mile 5 or something. And then we got in the van and we were in the middle of nowhere. And it was foggy and we're at this top of this hill and we're all crying, holding each other up. And then we see these like 4 specks down at the bottom of this monster hill. And we're like, could it be? Could it be? So we were as shocked as you guys were. Never did we think that would happen.
Yeah. And I mean, what kind of the side that you didn't see. So throughout this whole process, when you're shooting a story on an athlete, which first of all, I want to make like Andrea is an athlete, like that is who she is, and the mentality that she had to have to do this is just an elite athlete's mentality. And when you think about visuals of an athlete pushing themselves, right, you think of like grimacing and sweat and perseverance. And Andrea giggles.
So much like that's a lot of energy you use laughing out.
Yeah. So she would it was this thing where I kept running into, and I was like, you know what, I have to give into this but I was like, man, how can we like convey to an audience that doesn't, fully understand that, like, if she's in pain or if she's struggling, she's like smiling and giggling. And that hill was the first time in the entire time that I saw her cheeks get red. Like they got red and she couldn't giggle or smile. And I can't say how big of a deal that was. And to your point, Carol, like your question earlier about, if this was hurting her, like we did see the pain it was causing her. And so in that moment, I was watching this and I was like, it was the first time where I really was like, is she gonna make it? Is she gonna need to ask for help? And I love that how it plays out on screen is exactly how it happens. You hear this crazy scream from way up the hill. And when you all ran down and you literally, you know, cheered her up the hill and you pushed her without pushing her, I ran back to the van or to our car, and I got in the car and I told Brian, like, we have the film. Like, we have it. Like, whether or not she crosses the finish line, which we all know she's going to because she's Andrea and so stubborn. Anyway, so that to me was the moment where all of those pieces came together, the community of people, just the history of who you all represented, like in being there at that moment, all those mile markers, all the lives, all of the fight, like all of the pain and all of the joy, was just like, I felt so represented right there.
And I think on top of that, the convergence of that moment of Andrea on that race was wearing the tights that had the
Yeah.
names of all the people with ALS, either who had passed away or were no longer able to race, and that she was carrying them up this mountain.
Yeah.
And she was carrying them up kind of alone. And then it was a group of women who had lost people that they cared about to ALS who came and were the ones who helped carry her up the hill too. And it's just this beautiful moment of like the group surrounding and carrying each other.
Yeah.
Which was the thing that we fell in love with the most about the community.
Yeah. We felt like that just perfectly embodied what we experienced of the entire community through the 4 years. So thank you for letting us witness that.
God, thank you for being there to record it. I mean, it felt like all of that, but it was also scary because, you know, I stayed mid-hill and, you know, Colette went down to the bottom, and Dave, I think you see it in the film, said, you know, cheer her up the only way, you know, you can, Colette, get in her face and spit and swear at her, and she's laughing the whole way. But he said to her or somebody else down there at that point, first time she's was doubtful in all of these marathons.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, well, we can't fucking let that happen. But this is a big, big hill.
Yeah.
You know,
And like
it's
this big one.
scary.
Yeah. And there were more. There were still more coming.
Yeah, we drove those. They were fine for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is the thing of like that scene and the Boston scene, like you couldn't have scripted that because it wouldn't be believable. Like it was just incredible. And so maybe that is why I never get tired about watching the film, because like it's just so amazing what happened, and all of the people, whether they're here or not, like it just made the movie what it ended up being.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, I cry every
Watched
time I watch
it
the
again.
movie, but holy moly, I didn't think I was gonna cry in this.
Oh,
That was beautiful.
and you know, Brian, I've asked this before, I think at one of the films, but I don't know if I asked it last year on this about the crack that, you know, I thought it was so cool that like Dave and Andrea said to me, Brian knew not to just jump in and help. How did you like how did you just knew not to just to ask?
We
So-
had from the get-go of this film, we had several conversations about when we would intervene, and because filmmakers change the dynamic just by being there. Like, and when you're talking about accessibility, having 2 more hands or 4 more hands drastically changes what you're able to do help wise. But our job was to capture the truth of ALS, which isn't having all these extra people who can set down their cameras and help you. And Andrea also made it very clear that she wanted to tell the true story. And so it was ultimately our job to respect what she wanted. And so in that moment, I it's funny watching it on film because I thought we had a whole conversation, and then and like film, it was like we said like 2 words to each other, but like right, it was like one sentence, one, and then her saying what,
Yeah.
if I flip, I flip. So it was years of conversation that led to that
Yeah.
moment. And
Well, and it started in New Orleans. It started in New Orleans with the flat tire. And it seemed like she wasn't going to, one of the things that made New Orleans so hard was that flat tire happened, and it was really stressful. And at one point, I mean, we were all friends. That's the hardest thing. And Dave asked us, "Hey, are you gonna help?" And I remember Brian looked at him and said, "No, man, we can't. Like, we have to film what's happening here. And if we help, then we can't actually document what accessibility is." And that sparked a long conversation, several conversations of talking through documentary ethics, when we would step in and help. Because of course, like you see in Hawaii, like she's taking on water. We're not going to be like, we need to film this. Like, no, like Andrea's life is in danger. We put the camera down and we'll help. Of course, like no question. But if it's something where like, because this world is not accessible, because this world doesn't make, those things need to be, that needs to be like drawn to attention. And so we had started that conversation in 2019, and I felt like that crack was the embodiment of that. And Andrea clearly defining, this is what I want.
And it is such a apt metaphor for ALS. Like, no one running even noticed that crack, and for someone with ALS, it's almost impossible. And so, yeah, I loved how that came out on screen. But it was like 10 minutes. It's like 2 minutes in the film, but the reason Brian came looking for me is because my dot stopped moving.
Yeah.
yeah, and I almost turned around, like, because I was like, there's no possible way that she's been stopped for this long. And because that one was one where like you had to jump onto the path like every few miles. So I went like a mile and I was like, I don't see her. It must be an error with her phone because she's lost service before. So when it happened upon her, I was genuinely surprised.
And it seemed like, but again, this may have been in the editing, even though it's only 2 minutes in the film, it felt like an eternity. And it was almost, it literally, like my chest was heavy. But it seemed like, and this may be the editing, that you were, that did Brian just being there have an impact on your ability to get over that crack?
Well, because he said, "What do you want me to do?" And I was like, "Oh, hell no. I'm doing this." And it's so like, so yeah, I mean, had I been by myself, like, I don't know what I would have done, but I mean, I like to think I would have figured it out, but the closest runners were like 40 minutes away because I started early.
Mhm. I think that, yeah, it's definitely, I hadn't thought about it this way, but like the importance of just having people walk, journeying alongside, because just having someone there can help with the courage and the bravery to take on those challenges yourself.
Yeah.
You got over the crack yourself.
Yeah.
And then having someone there, if something went wrong, was also like the confidence to do that yourself.
Yeah.
Um
I think with like goals and for people with ALS, like setting goals is like something that we're not used to doing anymore, because like I but I think that is the change in mindset. Like, I'm not saying that everyone could do a marathon or a 50 if they wanted to with ALS, but the mindset is so hard to accept what is happening, but still fight what is happening. Like, it is just, it's something that I've been thinking a lot about as I've had to tell my story, especially in groups affected by ALS, where yes, I am very, 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 very lucky that my progression is so slow. But I'm also like, I think that setting that goal, that crazy goal, helped me to aim towards it. It was like one marathon to the next. Um, no, I don't know. I don't know, but I would like to do more. I would like to provide hope to others, and they can take on crazy goals or just live for something and not just trying not to die, you know?
So I guess the big question is, what's next for both of you guys? Each square, what's next for each of you?
Well, for me, I want to focus on being a better partner to Dave. Like, he has sacrificed so much for me and for my dreams that I want to, allow him the space to explore whatever it is that he wants to do, which right now involves growing a 3 foot asparagus in our backyard. So if that's what he wants to do, then I wanna be there to support that, and I will always keep raising money and for care.
And Brian and MJ, what the heck are you guys up to? What's next?
Um, I'm mostly back working on my nonprofit in Rwanda. So the past 2 years, we've seen some of the biggest growth we've ever seen. What we do is we partner with Rwandans to get kids who are living off the streets through soccer. In the last 2 years, we've seen the most kids get off the streets and back into school we've ever seen in our 16 years.
Awesome.
So we're working on growing that, and
Specifically the women's teams.
specifically women's teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you guys are just gonna succeed at everything you do now?
Well, when there's no more kids living on the streets in Rwanda, maybe we'll say we've, I don't know. Yeah, and I've kind of I've kind of chilled out a bit. I've returned to a lot of the projects that I was working on before. I think I needed a break. My brain was pretty like from editing it and then jumping straight into distribution. I wanted to slow down and kind of catch my breath. And so I've been really enjoying kind of focusing on some of my other projects. Like I'm working on a kitchen show right now, and my job is to show up and make food look beautiful. And it's kind of been a nice deep breath. I feel like I'm getting back to a point where I can take on another big story, but I'm not quite there yet. It took a lot out of me to do what we did. And so we've kind of just also been focusing on each other, on our like physical and mental health, and kind of settling and knowing that that's the time. Last year was just sprinting. And now it's that like athlete like recovery. So just kind of that stage and just like really enjoying it.
Good.
Yeah.
But also trying to get her into do narrative film next as well, so not just documentary.
Yeah, but I've just been like, my brain's not there yet. My brain's not ready quite yet. It'll get there, but not quite yet.
I think it's great to recognize that,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you all, I mean, all of you had just a profound impact on us. And so we're just really grateful for each and every one of you, for all the stories that you shared with us, for all the time that we got to spend with you. So we're just really grateful that, yeah, for everything.
Us too. Thank you, Andrea and Brian and MJ, for letting so many of us feel a part of all of this. From being at the marathons to being on mountains to, being part of it all. That was a gift.
I just saw Carol post that you're going to be at Trek, so I'm looking forward to meeting you guys as well.
Yeah, Maureen, I can't wait for you guys to be able to meet there. That'll be great.
Yeah, Elizabeth, my college roommate, is coming with me, and we are doing 30 miles on a Saturday.
Awesome. And smart, because the big hill is on Sunday, so that's really smart. Good choice. Good choice.
I want to do that
now. We'll take you over if we have to, and we'll start humming the theme from Rocky if that's what we have to do. We'll do it all over again. Hi, Michelle. Is there, Sunny, I just wanted to think of one other thing, and it made me think of it as Maura's meeting Andrea kind of for the first time. If there's anybody, I don't know if there was anybody who just recently watched the movie to be here tonight. I think so many of us have seen it, a few times. But if there's somebody who just saw it for the first time, I want to offer them the floor for a minute or two. See?
Old news.
A minute.
Well, actually, I had just watched it for the first time. I work.
Oh, you
for the-
did, Diane.
Yeah, I work for the ALS Association, and I am eagerly watching every movie. And in fact, last year when I had reached out to Dr. Bedlack about the PBS documentary, which was screened in a film festival, he mentioned that he hadn't seen it yet. He was going to watch it with his team. But what I should really go and try to find is Go On, Be Brave, because I would really enjoy that. And of course, it hasn't come across my radar until now. And so it was a real delight to finally get to watch it. And of course, to see Dr. Bedlack in it, because he's a superstar. And just to see the journey. I mean, to say it's inspiring is low praise for how impactful it is. Not just in terms of the awareness and the funds raised and everything, but I think, again, the hope and the inspiration, which is hard to find in this reality. So thank you all so much for doing it.
Thank you.
Sonny, you got anything left you want to?
How many marathons are you doing in 24?
Well, two, hopefully, Wichita, and, I mean, as it is fun, and, hopefully, New York, if they will let me in, and, stick it to, Boston. Yeah, I can. And then,
what about what about
Calgary, it's 2025 and Memorial Day weekend. So, and then we're going to go to Banff, which is on my bucket list. So,
and you're gonna run a
yeah.
marathon in Banff?
No, in
You're just
Calgary,
going.
which I have been told is flat. Um, but yeah, all are invited.
How many are you running,
Definitely
Sunday?
excited. Definitely excited to be a part of your journey and cheer you on without having to run a marathon. Since we're pairing films this year with books, has anybody or everybody read the book? No.
Andrea, I have to say that when I read your book I think it was the first 50 pages, I related to everything you wrote about just going into a clinic and having been diagnosed with ALS and the providers coming in and saying, "How are you?" I'm going like, "Well, how old do you think I am?" And it would have you laughing and crying and just relating. It was so, both the movie and the book were so good for me. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm excited to reread the book. I remember texting you after I read it the first time. I was like, I feel like I've talked to you all day. And you're just sitting here talking to me.
It does feel like that. That's so nice.
I love that.
All right. Any final thoughts or comments, questions, prayer requests? That's what somebody here in town always says. Well, thank you, all three of you, for the work and the awareness and the love you've just poured into each and every one of us. Um, we had this on the books before we even asked you guys. It was a no-brainer. It was an easy addition. Um, so next week is our fifth and final um, film, and Emily will send out the details. I believe we'll start normal time, and then they'll show Rookie and the lights, and then we'll start the conversation. So just a heads up that that one's not one you can go out and watch on your own, but that we are going to watch it together. I saw it in Switzerland. Hydrate.
Yeah.
You're going to need it.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so sweet. Yeah. So happy Monday. Thank you guys for coming. And I'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank you so much
you.
For doing this.
Thank you.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Brian and MJ. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for
See you
doing
in
this, honey.
June.
Or I love knowing where you're sitting right now. I can picture.
I'm having trouble with my mute button. I am in my living room
Yeah, so I'm picturing that over to your
where the
left
pool is
would
behind.
be
Yeah.
like the front
Yes.
entrance. Yeah.
Well, actually, yeah, left is front and right is Joan and Chris's house.
Okay. Cool.
I'm sitting against that back wall.
Cool. Or I meet Sunny and Andrea.
Hi, Andrea. Hi, Sunny. Thank you so
Hi.
much. And Andrea, I watched it with my daughter the other night, and she's going to be riding, but she'll probably be in the 21-year-old. You'll probably kick her out.
I don't know. I'm not
They haven't been training. They have
Mom,
no
maybe
training.
not.
Yeah, you will. But they're looking forward to it. Yeah.
Is she riding Saturday? She's riding
Yeah,
Saturday.
they're all riding Saturday. Yeah. All three of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're lucking out because we switched the Saturday and the Sunday this year so that we could have the big hill feel like John Street, Andrea, and have it be on Sunday. So it's way shorter, but it's really steep. Yeah, we'll take you over there if we need to.
Andrea, like, now I want to do that.
Yeah.
I do. I
Yeah.
did I did John Street. And so I gotta try.
Yeah.
John
Well,
Street.
my
Did I
daughter.
tell you the story of John Street in our old track more and what happened so
No.
the trek used to be a 3-day from Boston to Greenwich, Connecticut event,
Okay.
270 miles, 3 days. And last year we switched it to 2 days with the different options to make it more accessible to people and so that somebody could, if you were going to ride 270 miles, then you had to have been training a long time ago. But if you're just going to ride 30 miles, you couldn't sign up for the trek next week and probably
Still train. Yeah. Do it.
so make it accessible to more people. But so on the third day, 9 miles from the finish line, so 261 miles into this, is this hill. And I don't talk hills. Andrea could probably tell you what the grade was. It's just effing really steep.
Like steeper than Heartbreak Hill. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And what, Andrea, probably about a mile start to finish. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Word.
station ourselves, like all the way up it, we chalk it and we put, the names that people are riding for in chalk in big letters to ostensibly to help people get up the hill, but really all it does is make them cry and makes it harder to get up the hill. But it entertains us, right? Just torture everybody on the way up. But then the TDI team and all of our volunteers, many of whom were on the call tonight, are stationed, all the way up and down the hill to cheer people on. And that was where Andrea first had our friend Colette, who will be riding the track too. Finn's coming too, Andrea. Yeah. Cheering everybody up and getting Andrea up with, with spit and curse words. But I was stationed closer to the top, and Andrea comes buzzing up the hill kind of alongside me, and I was like keeping up with her for, I don't know, maybe 25 yards. And then I pretended that my phone rang. And I'm like, you guys go ahead. And I stopped and I fake talked into my phone. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
God, that's hilarious. Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. I know my daughter was also like, you gotta get yourself one of those bikes. And we'll see. My left leg is very weak, so I don't know how, but I don't know. Try it.
Will you be there?
I will be there. Yep, I'm gonna come. Yep.
You're welcome to try and on the flat ground.
Okay. Do you find it? Well, you're strong in your legs, right? Yeah. So you've been, yeah.
But I think the hardest part is the people who lose function in their hands. They cannot grip the brake. So but we'll just see if you want.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Sunny and Andrea, the reason I can envision where Moore is sitting is because she lives in the house next door to the one that I grew up in. And the people that we sold our home to are her dear friends.
Yeah,
Isn't that
it's
crazy?
such a small world because I was emailing Courtney about something. I think I was attending one of the town halls or something like that, and you have to register your address. And then she's like, and I said, she asked me if I wanted to come for a tour, and I said yes, and she said, Carol keeps asking, what number house do you live in? And it's so funny that you grew up right next door, and they're very good friends of ours now too, but my husband's, yeah.
Yeah, so Courtney at the time wasn't ready to do a lab tour on her own yet. So I was still like, helping. And she said, it's a woman from Wayland. And I said, where in Wayland? She pulls it up. She goes, Forest Hill Road. What do you mean? So that's pretty crazy.
That's wild.
It's crazy. It is crazy, yeah.
I mean, this is a rather kind of rural road with when I lived there, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses. How many now?
I think there's 3 more, but they're all at the bottom of the hill. Yeah.
Yeah. And Team Mora is killing it fundraising on the track. It's awesome.
So far, more to go. Hopefully, I think they keep hearing that they're gonna recruit a couple more riders. So
awesome.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, it's exciting.
All right, ladies.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So nice to meet you. Your story is incredibly inspiring.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Sunny.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.